the end of the day, selling is transferring a feeling. If you don't have the feeling, you can't transfer it. If you don't have a good, positive feeling, dude, you're an actor. You have to sell and run your business from a place of positivity. And however you get there, God bless you. Welcome to the Primeau Show. It is episode 94, and we are with Jeff Bajorek and rethinking the way you sell today. Before we get to Jeff, let me just pay the bills real quick. Sell a Million. If you haven't gotten this book and you haven't implemented 101 strategies to sell another million, you need to do it today, especially. The doors are not swinging the way they were, and you need this book. You can start off any place you want and end anywhere you want. I suggest you start with the very last chapter. But let me just do one other thing. Steve Hauk, are you here? Steve, thank you for sponsoring my show, the Mattress Industry Network Group. I think we're over 1,600 strong now. And if you are new to the mattress industry, you have to belong to this group. It's absolutely free. If you want to learn how to build, market, sell, and succeed in the mattress industry by a group of retailers, join this group now. And it's a great place to network. Find out what the best selling lines are, what the best margin lines are. Good morning, gentlemen. Everyone, sell a million today. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you. And one other thing about our group, the Mattress Industry Network Group. If you have been around for a long time and you think you know it all, jump in this group, because you will find out that there's some really smart people in this group, and it's a great group. Whether you're a rookie or whether you're an old pro, join the group and you will be pleasantly surprised. Scan me right there and tell them Pete Primeau sent you. Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Good to be here, Pete. Thanks for having me. It's funny. People ask, because I have a podcast, and they ask how it's going and if it's, how much fun it is and everything. And I always tell people, like, we don't get enough people to listen that we're selling mattresses or anything. But this is actually the first time I've been on a show where I'm going to help people sell mattresses. So that's just kind of a cool, just a cool kind of whole circle there, I guess.
Yeah. So anybody that doesn't know who Jeff is a rising star in sales and sales training. And more than that, he's actually a sales coach, among other things. I was first apprised of Jeff's whereabouts by one of our previous podcasts, alumni, Karen Saravo. And she said, this Jeff Bajorek is amazing. You have to listen to him. So what did I do? I didn't do anything. Anybody who knows me knows it takes 10 times before I do anything. And so I go to Outbound and I listened to Jeff and I said, oh my gosh, this guy, this is exactly what we need. Energy, creativity, and a student of the game. It's one of the things that we share. I've been at this for 40 years and I'm still a student of the game, and you've been at it for a bit and you're a student of the game, and I can tell you are, and everything that you read and write. And so what I did over the weekend, guys, before I ask Jeff a question, is I got these guides, and you've got to get them. They're just great. If you are a B2B sales rep, get this. I'll probably regret this. I'll probably lose a few accounts too over it. But when it all goes sideways, is for everybody. If you're a retailer or a wholesaler or a sales pro on the retail floor, get this book. And it's a quick read and it's impactful. There is absolutely no fluff here whatsoever. And so, Jeff, here goes my first question. How did Rethink the Way You Sell come about, and what does it mean to you?
It came about during a branding exercise probably 6 years ago. I realized when I got my business up that it was that I had talents, and those talents were not marketing, branding, logo design, website design, things like that. And actually, with a good friend of mine, Christy Walters, who I used to have the Why and the Buy podcast with, we hired a designer for the logo for that show. Actually, I got it on a mug right here. This is what it looks like, the Why and the Buy. This was great. And um, that introduced me to just a tremendous designer. Her name is Liz Borkert. And when I knew that I needed to do something for my business, I sat down with her and I said, let's do this for me. And so we went through this really drawn out process, which was like my first indication that I was way over my skis when it came to doing this for myself. And she had multiple conversations with me and a couple of rounds of ideas and tell me about you and tell me what your approach is. And she came back with this tagline. She said, rethink the way you sell. And I don't know if that was something, I don't recall if that was something she synthesized from our conversation or if just because of the way we had the conversation, I said it, but it stuck. And ever since then, it's kind of been a guiding light for me. And I think you asked what it means to me. I think there are too many salespeople out there who are trying to find other people's models, other people's templates, other people's tips and tricks. I mean, we've bought the books. Pete, you're a student of the game. I'm a student of the game. It's really easy to get sucked into the fallacy that if we take what one of these tremendous authors, tremendously smart and talented sales leaders puts out there, and if we just take their blueprint and use it ourselves, we'll be successful. And that's just not the case. The most you can get to at that point is mediocrity. Unless you make it your own, unless you sell like you're never going to rise to the level of success that you need. And in order to do that, you need to think about why the techniques in that book worked. You need to think about why the leaders out there speak the way that they do and do the things that they do. And what are the underlying principles there? What are the foundational elements? When you understand what the foundational elements are, and then you think about the best way for you to go and do them, when you rethink the way you sell, you start to understand how you can best put those principles into play for yourself. And that's what I did when I was in the field that made me successful. And that's what I do with my clients. And that's what I help them do so that they can really maximize and realize their own potential.
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes that I see salespeople make, and I made it myself, is just becoming, a parrot and just mimicking something that you heard somebody else say.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you start off that way, but you sooner or later you've got to get to a place where it's coming from deep within your psyche, deep within your soul, in that it rings true for you. One of the rules that I have, because I'm a multi-line rep, and so I have, 6 different bosses, 6 different lines, and I have a way that I sell, and I will not compromise on
Mm-hmm.
that way that I sell. And it irks some of my guys. And if it irks them too much, I just don't go with them because the reality is I'm never going to sell for a commission. I'm never going to sell because you're overstocked on something and it's not good for my customer. If it's good for my customer and it's a great deal, it's the right fit, then absolutely. One of my favorite words is the word intentional. And
Mm-hmm.
I kept hearing it again and again. Um, you you do a better job of explaining intentional. And I think you linking it back to being authentic is
Mm-hmm.
is a huge piece of a lot of what you're teaching. Can you talk about that just for a moment?
I think in order to be intentional, you need to be focused and you need to have clarity. And, I think in one of the concepts I've been working on recently, Pete, is this concept called the sales success cycle. And the sales success cycle has 3 components. It's integrity, belief, and performance. When you have integrity, that's where your focus comes from. Am I doing the right things for the right people, the right ways, for the right reasons?
Mm.
If you have that alignment, you can do a lot of things. You can do anything, right? So when you have that alignment, that's where focus comes from. But that alignment in your integrity allows you to believe in what you're doing. And if you don't believe in what you're doing, you're not going to do it very well. But when you believe, when you have that sales swagger that I like to talk about, that enables performance to a level that is really not attainable otherwise. And so that alignment leads to belief. The belief leads to performance. That kind of performance that you feel good about because you know you're doing the right things for the right reasons, that reaffirms your integrity and the cycle continues. It's a virtuous cycle as opposed to a vicious one. That's medical terminology that comes from a former lifetime of mine. But that really is akin to what Jim Collins writes and talks about all the time, is getting that flywheel spinning. All right. So when you're doing the right things for the right reasons, you feel really good. You believe that your mission is to help people in a way that no one else is helping them. That enables you to perform at a level that you couldn't perform at previously. And then it just continues to go. And that intention requires that kind of alignment. So it all really starts there. And I didn't have names for this really until recently, Pete. And it's one of the things that, I really had to go back and think about kind of the genesis and the origin story of where all my writing comes from. And for me, the switch was always, do I believe in what I'm doing or am I not quite so sure? And what do I need to do to flip that switch? And so that's where my writing and my talking is coming from in a more intentional manner now, Pete, since I have the means of, putting a language to where all this stuff was coming from. But you're picking up by reading my work over the years, you're picking up kind of, really the organic nature of where it came from.
I want to unpack one thing that I think is, we could spend the rest of the show just talking about this, but there's something that really struck me. It was like a baseball bat that came out of left field and it hit me. When you're in alignment, when you believe, the way you speak
Mm-hmm.
and the effectiveness of each call is greatly magnified. And then there's another piece to this too. So this is for my rep friends. When you have that little thing going off in your head, you were taught as a rookie rep, make one more call. When you're not aligned, when you don't believe, you don't make the one more call. But when you are aligned and when you believe and when you are really focused on the good that you can do for this next dealer that you're going to see, you make that one more call. And if it means you're late to dinner or you miss dinner, then you're late to dinner, you miss dinner because you're driven. You're absolutely driven because you know you can help this customer. And I would say the same thing to you as a store owner. If you're having a tough time getting through to your employees, you're having a tough time getting through to your customers, what was your first love? Why did you start this business? What difference were you trying to make in the lives of your customers? And now I'm gonna bang you over the head. How far have you drifted from it? And if you can find your way back into that alignment and into that belief and knowing clearly why you open this store and the benefits that it provides to the customers in the area, you get that piece of this right and you're going to be unstoppable. I saw the wheels going, so I'm going to shut up and let you do your thing.
Oh, it's you don't just make one more call when you have this alignment. You often make two. You sometimes make three because it's just what you do. It comes through you. There's no resistance within you. When you don't have that alignment, when you don't have that belief, that's where call reluctance comes from. That's where the doubt of, is this the right thing? Should I do this? And you find that resistance even when you are aligned, when you find yourself driving by the dealer that you don't want to work with. You're like, yeah, I should, but I really don't want to. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's because they won't ever pay the premium that your product deserves. They're going to be a pain to work with. Like, not every customer is a good customer, and you never have a better day when you fire your worst customer. But
Yeah.
like when you find yourself with that resistance, Like that friction is very, very difficult to overcome. But alignment is what reduces all that friction. It's like motor oil, it's like synthetic motor oil in an internal combustion engine, right? It helps everything move more freely. And Pete, we met in Atlanta at Outbound this year, and two of the guys on the main stage, Jeb Blunt and Anthony Iannarino, both wrote two best-selling books this year, published them both, one in the spring, one in the fall. And it's like, how do you do that? Well, you do that when you're so aligned with what you do and you are so good at what you do and you know so well the audience, the people you're trying to reach with that work. Um, it's infinitely easier for them to do that than for someone else who doesn't have that same alignment. It's literally not the same sport. It's not the same game. It's not the same ballpark. It's not the same anything, because that alignment, along with their skills and talents that they've developed over time, I'm not trying to take away from their years of experience, but like that's why it's easier for some people to do some things than it is for other people. Are you in touch with your own integrity? Does this feel like the right thing to do? When it feels like the right thing to do, discipline, as we know it, just isn't that big of a deal. And that, I think, it's a missing ingredient to sales performance. I believe, that sales success cycle, that equation of integrity, belief, and performance, most sales trainers, most companies are only trying to address one of those three factors. And that's why most salespeople never reach their full potential. They're not even looking at integrity and belief. They're taking integrity for granted, and they're hoping that belief, it gets a little bit of carryover effect. Let's let you practice this. Let's give you some skills. Let's give you some templates that'll give you some confidence, and maybe that'll spill over into belief. But confidence and belief are not the same thing. Confidence, or belief rather, is confidence plus integrity. If I show you a million ways to do something, but you just don't believe it's the right thing to do, you're still not going to do it that well. It's not because you don't know how to do it. It's because you don't believe in it. It's confidence plus integrity. Those are the missing elements to so many salespeople. They could be doing so much better if they were just looking for the right thing to work on.
That's great. As you were walking through that, you know, when I talked to Jeb last week, that this last book, Selling in a Crisis, it literally just poured out of him. It was, and his biggest challenge was editing the darn thing, because and it always is, and even but the fact that he got that out in that time just tells me it wasn't a business calculation. It was something that he had to do to give back to the community that he has served and who has served him so well. And it had to happen. In his mind, it had to happen. And he literally parked all of his business and wrote the book as fast as he humanly could do it. And I'm thankful that he did, because there's a lot of great things. And the interesting thing is, this book, when it goes sideways, to me, there's a lot of the same stuff there. And I'm telling you, I know when you wrote that what, in 2020?
Yeah. Spring of 2020.
And I know why you wrote it, but everything that's in there for that time applies today, and then some. But one thing I just want to give to our sales pros that work on a retail floor, everything that we're talking about here, it applies to you doubly, maybe triply. So the one thing I want to just mention real quick to my sales pros who are selling at retail, and a shout out to Crane's Mattress today, who I did a meeting with your 3 stores. Thank you, Kathy and Ray and everybody. It was a lot of fun for me, a great way to start my week. There's 3 things that you can sell as a retail salesperson. You can sell your product, and they can buy your product from any store. And you can sell your store. And if you're a commission salesperson, they can buy from any salesperson on that floor. Or you can sell yourself. And if you believe in yourself and you believe that you're going to do a better job for that retail consumer than any other human being, then your customer is going to get you a great sales professional who has integrity, who wants to win for them, and who will go to the ends of the earth. If something does go sideways, they're going to get the great store and they're going to get the great product. But focusing in on selling you is the most important thing you could possibly do. Like Jeff says, sell like you. And I'm going to shorten it up for you. Sell you.
Mm.
Sell you. I mean, we should be able to look into the mirror and we should be able to shop 10 stores today and say, I have the most integrity. I have the most knowledge. I am going to work harder. I'm going to be more creative. And you have exercises in your guides that, encourage people to find their ideal customer and to ask them why they bought from them. I used to do it when I was in retail. After I got everything done, all the paperwork was done, I basically asked them why they bought. And, I loved when they said, well, we shopped 3 or 4 stores, or we shopped 5 or 6 stores. And Pete, you know, you were the one who was the most professional, the most creative, blah, 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 blah. You know what I usually found out? I was the only one that didn't lie to them. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a sobering thought that here I am, and all of what I put into my craft. But the most significant thing that they came away from was I was honest. And I call them bridges. Customers will ask you questions that they already know the answers to. And they want to see how you're going to walk over that bridge
Mm.
or if you're going to crash and burn. So the most common one was the last day of the sale routine. And I would tell them the truth. If there was, but even if there wasn't a last day for the sale, I would tell them, hey, listen, as long as I've been here, it's been at that price. And I know I'm supposed to tell you that today's the last day of the sale, and I'm supposed to, but I'm not going to tell you that because it's not true. And sometimes the customers would stop me right there, Jeff, and say, that's what we love about you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're buying. And they wouldn't even let me close. They just take it away from me. So retail salespeople, have fun and serve your customers, and make sure you sell yourself, because you have to sell like you, and you have to find a way to make this yours. Um, Features and benefits, they're there on every product. There's not there's no shortage of features and benefits. And if, by the way, if you don't translate those to outcomes, you're gonna have a very short career or a very unprofitable career. Either way, um, you have to find out what's important. One of the things that they hope obligation becomes belief over time. Obligation. Oh, that's interesting, Jeff. Who said that, Chris? I can't see.
Yeah, it just says Facebook user, but it's interesting. It's like if you're compelled to do something enough over and over and over again, they hope that by osmosis you start
Yeah.
to believe it. And that just doesn't happen. Just because you tolerate something doesn't mean you believe it. And just because you're willing to tolerate something doesn't mean it's that good. It just means it's good enough to be tolerated. It doesn't mean that it's the best out there. And I think that and I love your I want to go back to that analogy you made about bridges, right? Are you
Sure.
giving your customers um, the opportunity to you're given the opportunity by your customer rather to show them how you're going to tread over that bridge. Who are we working with here? The
Right.
average customer knows a lot more than you think they do. They still don't know everything, and they're still not always right. And I will argue with you about that. But the to proceed with that relationship as if it's already moving forward, to show them your character, to give them an inside look at what it's like to work with you. That's going to be the difference. Look at the manufacturers selling the products that you sell. They have their prices, and the dealers are buying those products and they're marking them up. The margin is how their business operates. So there is certainly a floor. You can only get so cheap on this stuff.
Right.
And so when it comes down to something that people can get anywhere and it's the same, the truck stops at your place and then it goes to the next place and then it goes to the next place. It's the same truck. People see what is the same, but they're always looking for something different. They're looking for a better experience. They're looking for someone they can trust. They're looking for something they can believe in. You have to be that difference. And what's interesting is that salespeople have known this for a long time. I'm not, this is not news, but it's interesting how many salespeople will act out of integrity to try to make themselves different. And it just misses the whole point. If you're so fake trying to tell me exactly what you think that I want to hear, that's a red flag for me. But if you show up and you're like, here's the deal. The good news is the sale doesn't really end today. This is just what it costs. The bad news is, yeah, this is what I'm selling it for. Like, I hope you're waiting for, I think you might be hoping to hear that I can actually be a little bit better on this. I could be a little like, here, cards on the table. This is what it costs. I'm not going to make you sign on it today, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's never going to be any cheaper. So like, if you want this, we should move forward. If you don't, it's totally fine. The timeline is really irrelevant, but the fact of the matter is this is a mattress that you're going to sleep well on for a long time. Just let me know what you want to do. Like that transparency, that authenticity, that, hey, I'm not going to sugarcoat you, but I got a lot of things to do. I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you, but I got a lot of things to do. I got a lot of people to get to today. What would you like to do? What else do we need to talk about before you make your decision one way or another? That's not supposed to sound flippant. It's just supposed, like, for me, I'm going to give you everything that I can give you. And then it's time to think, or it's time to act. I'm not going to twist your arm. I'm not going to make you purchase right now. But it's my job to help you make the decision you need to make. And I'm going to do that in a way that only I can.
That was solid gold. Someone they can trust, someone they can believe in. It's an absolute breath of fresh air, Jeff. That's so good. I'm going to read a quick chapter in my book. It takes about 40 seconds. And this is actually one of my favorite chapters. It's so short, though. So, guys, those of you at home, chapter 92, Be Like Joe, page 132. Joe Girard, that is. Who is Joe Girard? Guinness Book of World Records recognizes Joe as the world's greatest salesman. He did it in the automobile industry between 1963 and 1978. He did it when you went to Joe's office to write up a car, you would see pictures of his customers with their new car and thank you notes written to Joe. Even though he won hundreds of awards, they were not featured in his office where customers could see them. All his customers could see is hundreds and thousands of pictures of happy customers with their new cars and a thank you. What was Joe communicating with his decor? You can be happy like my other customers too. What is your store communicating to your customers? Knowing what your customer likes and doesn't like is a key to giving them an atmosphere that is interesting and engaging. Be like Joe. Show lots of happy customers enjoying your store's great products, along with their thank you notes that your store has earned that will lead to more sales and more profits. And what I would say today more than ever is your testimonials, your 5-star online reviews, and your referrals. That's those are the three things you have to have in your business. And anybody that's a student of sales, if you don't know who Joe Girard is, Joe Girard went in the middle of a recession to a car dealership, and he said, "I don't want to take any business off of the door. I don't want. All I want is a phone and a desk. I won't take any of the dealership's ups." He built his business by working proactively, calling customers, scanning his newspaper, using the phone book when all else failed, and he became the greatest ever. And he never took a single up off of the floor. So if you don't know who Joe Girard is, read up on him. He is a phenomenal person, and his decoration, the way that he decorated his office, is a lesson. They don't care. Your customers don't care that you won a sales award. They don't want to be the bones that you walked on top of to get their next sales award. What they really want to know is, this guy really seems like a great guy. What do other people think? And there's the other people. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Love my car, Joe. And that should be our approach too. What say you?
Well, I think there's a theme in there that you keep coming back to, and you mentioned this earlier too. You talk to your customers, and you ask them why they bought from you. What did you learn? I mean, you mentioned that you learned that you were the only one that they could trust. That's important, right? But like, your best customers will give you all the language you need to find more like them. And remember how I mentioned a couple minutes ago that you never have a better day in sales than when you fire your worst customer? Like, you want to find more customers like your best customers, not just more people who are willing to give you money, because they're not all great. And so when you have that conversation, you learn. And then when you learn what really matters, it almost always surprises you. I say, if you ask 100 salespeople, line them all up. I say, how many of you, have asked how many of you know why your best customers buy? How many of you have asked? 5 people will raise their hand because they have asked, so they actually know. Another 15 people are pretty intuitive. They guess right. They make proper assumptions, and they get the answers to the questions right. So that's 20% of salespeople that know, and only 5 because they've actually done the work to ask. If you do the math, though, Pete, that's 80 more people. 80% of salespeople would be shocked to find out why their best customers are actually their best customers, just because they haven't had those conversations. And the thing is, you mentioned referrals too. This is my guide, my 4-step guide to having these interviews and getting more referrals out of the process. 1, Pete, why'd you buy from me the first time? And then, like, that's 1A. 1B is, okay, can you be more specific? Because they almost always will just gloss over it, because it's a vulnerable question to ask and a vulnerable answer to give. But when you say, look, I really appreciate the business we've done together. I really appreciate the continued business that we do together. It would really help me to find more customers like you if you were as specific as possible. Then they'll open up and they'll tell you everything that you need to hear. And then you thank them. And then step 2 is, why do you continue to do business with us? Now, what got you the first time? What keeps you here? Right. And then you're going to have you're going to continue to have this great exchange, this discussion. The third question is, do you know anybody else who might appreciate the same service? And the fourth question is, if you're feeling frisky, would you be willing to introduce us? So now you've gone from a little bit of market research to some customer loyalty research to, hey, you know anybody else? I'm asking for referrals. And now taking it a step further from asking for referrals, because if someone gives you a name and I just say, hey, Pete told me to call you, I've been burned by that before. I've actually been on the receiving. I don't do it that way. It's why I haven't been burned in that way by this. But I've had people call me before that say, oh yeah, so-and-so told me to told me to call you. And then I reach out to so-and-so and they're like, yeah, they kind of bullied me into just giving them some names. Sorry about that. Right. You got to be careful about how you do this. But if this is really a referral worth making, that person will introduce you. Email is too easy. Social media is too easy for them not to just send that quick message. So when you walk through that spectrum, now all of a sudden you're learning everything that you need to say to your next best customer, and you're also being delivered right to that customer. It's really, really simple if you're gutsy enough to ask the question that only 5% of your peers and competitors are willing to ask. If you're willing to step up, it will make you money today.
Mm, that is so good. And I love how you disarm them at the beginning of 4.
Mhm.
If you're feeling frisky,
Oh, that's my message to the salespeople. I suppose you could do that to your referral source as well. I suppose you could do that, but I think if you as the seller are feeling good that day, you got a little extra swagger in your step, then ask them to make the introduction. It's really what you should do all the time. But
so I want to dive into this thing with referrals just a little bit more. So
cool.
this is for store owners and this is for sales pros on the retail floor. Whenever you're getting a compliment, you've got to learn how to kind of oh shucks and make them come up and give you more. And after they give you more, then you go right into, you know, the rest of the referral thing. So are you just saying that? You're just trying to make me feel good? No, 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 no. We really well. What part of it did you like the most? Well, we love Joe. Joe was a great salesman, and then Jeff and Bob they delivered and they took their shoes off, and most of the delivery guys don't take their shoes off, and blah blah blah. So now what's developing here is a legitimate testimonial and a legitimate 5-star review,
Mhm.
and then you just kind of dig deeper, and once you get that all solidified, just ask. Believe it or not, there's still some folks out there that don't even know who we are. They don't even know XYZ mattress store is here.
Mhm.
And would it be okay if I put down and write in what you just said? Of course. Would it be okay if I used your name too? And by the way, if I sent you a link, could you just what we wrote, what we just said, just put that down on your review? And here's what you need to understand as a store owner and as a sales pro. Will everybody do it? No, they won't. Will a lot of people say they're going to do it and then not do it? Yeah. But if the competitor down the street does not ask for referrals, they do not ask for 5-star online reviews, and they don't ask for testimonials, and you ask every time you see an opportunity and you ask as part of a process, who do you think wins at the end of the day? The guy that has a process, the guy or the gal that goes out there consistently. And just understand that when people are coming to you with compliments, ding, 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 ding should be going off in your head. This is an opportunity for a testimonial. This is an opportunity for a 5-star online review. And this is an opportunity potentially for a referral. And referrals can do something that you can't. You're a stranger to this person. The referral is a known entity to somebody often, almost always. It's very unusual to get a referral from somebody that they don't know. And when they really know somebody and they like them, and if you look at how many people actually get asked to make a referral, it's very few. It might be the only referral that they get from this one person. And so if this is the right person connected in the right way, it can go and sell in a place that you as a salesperson or a store owner cannot sell, because they're doing it from a place of complete and total personal integrity, because they're a known quantity to that person. So
It-
those are
the
just a few thoughts.
I think we forget that you don't often get what you don't ask for,
Mm.
and your best customers really want to help. They don't know how to help. It's second nature to us to ask for referrals and testimonials and things like that because, hey, look, we've been doing this long enough to know that that's how it works, and most people won't ask. Okay. But we like to take it for granted that our customers know to do that, and they just don't. And I talk to seller after seller after seller. It's like, well, I don't want to ask for too much. They already paid me for the product or the service or the solution. I don't know. It's like, if this is your best client, you've already over delivered on their on that transaction, if you will, on the relationship. You're already over delivering. Ask. Right? What's the worst they're gonna do? They're gonna tell you no? Like, look, they're not you shouldn't be afraid that they're gonna pull all their business right out from underneath you because you had the gall to ask for a referral. Like, give me a break. You're leading with a compliment. Pete, I really appreciate our relationship. We've been working together now for 15 years. I've sold you so many mattresses, so much furniture, so much whatever it is that you're selling. Because I know there's people watching or listening to this right now that don't sell furniture.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you've done that. We've worked together for a long time. This kind of loyalty is not common, and I want you to know it's appreciated. So
Mm.
help me. What is it that you see in me? Because we all have blind spots, by the way. What is it that you see in me that you just don't find anywhere else? It would help me tremendously if you could help me articulate that. And then all of a sudden, you open the door to this conversation that deepens your relationship. You're not taking anything away from them. You're not taking more than what they paid for. This is not an improper or an uneven exchange. This is how good relationships work. You know what a beautiful relationship is? A beautiful relationship, whether it's personal, professional, otherwise, right, is when each one of the people in that relationship feels indebted to the other. They feel constantly like they're just trying to put as much into that relationship as possible because it means so much to them. You have to recognize that when that exists, the best way that you can help someone help you is by asking them to.
Mm.
They're looking for it if it's really a good relationship. And if it's not a great relationship, then the framework doesn't work. But why do we want to replicate relationships that aren't good? So
Yeah.
that's the way it all ties together. And it's not an entitlement thing. It's you shouldn't feel entitled to it, but you should recognize when you've earned it. And
Yeah.
that is a big difference.
Yep. Yep. Um, One of the most significant things that Jeff just said is your best customers want to help. Don't ever forget that. They want to help. The problem is we don't often share with them how they can help. And we need to get better at that as an industry. And all salespeople just flat out need to get better than that. I'll never forget, I had a customer and he said, "Hey, there's a customer, 2 hours away. His name is blah, blah, blah. And, um, he would really do good with your products. And his name is blah, blah, blah. And here's his phone number. And done me, didn't call. My customer got to the point where he got so frustrated with me, he wrote it down for me and he said, "Don't come back in here until you do this." So I finally do it. And the guy was waiting for me, had heard all about me, knew everything, and wanted to buy and bought, and was a great customer for many years. So here's one of the things that, you know, if you believe in what you sell and you know that you create good outcomes for your customers, and if you're selling mattresses in a sleep shop, the outcome is they wake up happy and pain free, or as happy and as pain free as their personality and their medical conditions will allow, right? Because if somebody is in stage 4 final, failure, there's nothing you can do for them health wise. And if they're a complete basket case mentally, then there's nothing you can do for them either. But other than that, most people, you can change their lives for the better. And when you look at the wellness stool, it's a three-legged stool, and it's very simple. It's nutrition, It's exercise and it's rest. And the biggest part of rest is how you sleep at night. And for you guys and gals out there that are sales pros on the retail floor, then you need to be explaining this to your customers and making them understand how important it is, because it's easy to be commoditized, especially with how we tend to advertise as an industry. Your store may not be guilty of it, but too many stores are advertising blah, blah, blah at XYZ. And it's meaningless to the average customer that hasn't been in the market for 10 to 15 years. They don't know a pillow top from a firm top. They don't know latex from memory foam. They don't know any of that stuff. That's all jargon for us. All they want is to wake up happy and pain free. And when you help a customer wake up happy and pain free, asking them to help you is a great compliment to them. And most people, if they've had a good experience and they like you, they really want to help, but we don't make it easy enough for them. And I love what you say. I want you to know that your business is appreciated. I want you to know that you're appreciated. That's very powerful words to help a customer get on board with what you're asking them to do. And here's the thing, and Mark Hunter does such a good job with this, with the mindset shift of what when you start to sell for the other person, understanding that their life is going to be better, just shop your competitors and ask yourself a few questions. Did you meet anybody along the way that you thought had more integrity than you? Did you meet anybody along the way that had more product knowledge than you? Did you meet anybody along the way that would work harder or more creatively for your customer than you? And that's mostly furniture, but sometimes we got to get creative when we're selling mattresses too, because sometimes you've got two partners and you've got complications of different health problems, and you're trying to find something that's going to be the right thing for them. But you don't ask, you don't get. That's overly simple. But the bigger piece to this is, if we go back to the very beginning of where we all started, integrity, belief, and performance. You know that you can help this customer feel better. You can make their friends feel better. You can make their relatives feel better. You can help their next door neighbor feel better. And if you believe that, why wouldn't you do it all the time? You would do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So good. So good. So let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
There's a lot of noise out there right now. We're a day away from an election. Half the country's going to be crushed in whenever the votes are done, and then the other half will be happy. How do you coach salespeople and business owners to put themselves in the best place possible to win, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in today, this moment?
With regard to what, are you talking specifically with the election, or are you just talking about with the circumstances in the economy and the trends and where
The
people are
whole
headed?
the whole ball of wax. Yeah, everything,
Well, the two,
and mindset more than anything. How do you keep your head in the game? How do you not get sidetracked with some of the stuff that's the noise that's going on?
well, it's control what you can control. Recognize that the noise is there. The signal is few and far between. The signals are few and far between. Um, but when it comes back to that integrity, like, do you know what you need to be doing? Do you know how to do it? Do you do it in a way that feels good to you? That's not only going to be effective, but that you can be proud of. And forget the stereotypes that are out there. Forget the conversations that are being had that are being had that don't apply to that integrity that don't align with your own goals and do the work that you need to do. Selling is not complicated. We like to complicate things by coming up with clever means of closing deals and opening conversations and all that other stuff. Look, you need to put yourself in front of people that can say yes to you, right? Thanks, Jeffrey Gittimer, for so eloquently stating that so many years ago. But put yourself in front of people who can say yes to you, help them make the decisions that they need to make that are in their best interest. And, if you can do that for people you appreciate, for people you respect with a product or a service that you feel good about, if your own methods make you smile and make you proud, like then it's and you have a purpose for doing it, like that's that alignment that we've already talked about. So don't get caught up in things that aren't aligned with you. All that is wasted effort and energy. It's wasted attention. It helps nobody. Worrying about where you're falling short, worrying about the, gubernatorial race in another state that's not going to impact you in any other way just because it's on the broader spectrum of politics. Like in your free time, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, like go right ahead. Everybody's got their hobbies. I prefer to play golf, but like, when it comes to my sales career and, what I'm trying to do for my clients, I have to have very strict boundaries around what matters and what doesn't. And I have to keep my focus on the stuff that matters because everything else is literally a distraction and it helps nobody. So if you're not helping anybody, why are you doing it?
Mm. Yeah, that goes back to how we started the show: focus, clarity.
Mhm.
So Jeff, one of my customers been watching the show, and they're like, this Jeff Bajorek guy, I like this Rethink the Way You Sell. I want to call this guy. I want to ask him a question. How do people get a hold of you, Jeff? What's the best way?
Pretty simple. The two easiest ways, jeffbajorek.com. There are links there that you can book a discovery call with me. If you think that what I've talked about today will be able to help your team or your organization, whether it's through a sales kickoff event or a training engagement or even just a one-off workshop, there are plenty of calls to action right on that website to get you in touch with me. The other way you can do it is also really simple: is just find me on LinkedIn. At Jeff Bajorek. That's my name. There's a Jeffrey Bajorek out there who's not me. And it's kind of funny to run into someone with the same name as you. But you can find me pretty easily. Send me a message. Connect with me there. Send me a message. I reply to all those messages. I don't have an organization that is working with me. I don't have a team of assistants that handles all my communication. You reach out to me, you get me, and let's talk about it.
That's awesome. And I can testify. I sent Jeff a personal message on LinkedIn. He replied right away, and the rest is history. So, Jeff, before we say goodbye, what would you like to say to our listeners?
You know what you need to do. There's a voice inside your head. There's a feeling in your belly or your chest that will guide you in the right direction if you're willing to listen to it. My advice to you is the same as the advice to my former self. I get asked this a lot. What would you tell a younger Jeff as he was just getting started? I would say to pay a lot more attention to that voice, pay a lot more attention to that feeling. It has never led me wrong. It will never lead you wrong. Where you go wrong is where you doubt it and try to follow somebody else's voice. So just remember that you'll never sell better than when you sell like you. And the sooner you're willing to trust yourself, the sooner you're going to experience those results.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next. Hopefully, I don't have to wait till Georgia next year. Now that I know you're a neighbor in Michigan,
And we're not that far away from each other, Pete.
no, we're not. As a matter of fact, one of my manufacturers is right around the corner from you, like 10 minutes away. So you might be getting a call from me. You never know.
Hey, we make coffee up here too, Pete.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a great day, and thank you. Have fun and sell a million.